This video is brought to you by theknowledgestream.com, streaming videos for your success. This is the first video of the course, Step-by-Step Approach to Excel Macros. This series has been designed for the viewers who are familiar with Microsoft Excel but have very little or no knowledge of Excel macros or Visual Basic. In this video, we will cover how to identify a macro-enabled Excel file. We will try to understand what is an Excel macro through a series of illustrations. Object is a very important aspect of any Excel macro program. We will try to understand it by simple examples. And lastly, we will write and run a simple macro for fun. Prior to arrival of Excel 2007, life was simple and almost all the Excel files had .xls as the extension, also known as legacy Excel files or simply Excel 97-2003 files. Excel 2007 and later versions have extended the file extensions to 4 letters. It is .xlsx for files which are not macro enabled and .xlsm for macro enabled file. Even the icons are different for a macro enabled file or .xlsm file. There is an additional exclamation mark in the yellow background. Now that we know how to spot an Excel-enabled macro file, let us try and understand what is an Excel macro after all. Simply saying, an Excel macro is a mini computer program that works on the Excel spreadsheets. It is very useful as it enables you to quickly automate your boring, everyday repetitive tasks. There are several creative ways in which you can use it in accounting, as we will see in the later videos. Anyways, before we look into the amazing things we can accomplish with the macro, let us try to visualize what an Excel macro is. A macro consists of a set of instructions written in Visual Basic. Visual Basic is the language developed by Microsoft which Excel understands. Then we have the target object, which is usually a cell or group of cells where the action really happens. We will discuss further about the objects later in this video. We need to tell a computer when to execute the commands in a particular Visual Basic script or macro, also known as the running the macro. The macro is run by the trigger which sets off the Visual Basic script, and it does what it is designed to do. We will discuss about the different type of triggers in the video number 2 of this course. Finally, when the script is run by the trigger, the action is performed and the values of the target object, M5 in this case, is changed from nothing to 45. So the 3 components of a macro are Visual Basic script, which tells the computer what is to be done, the trigger to run the script, and the target object where the action happens. Usually the object is the cell or the group of cells. Now let us try to understand what is an object with an example. Objects can be everything and anything. Some example of objects in everyday life could be a computer, a dog, a car, a house, and speaking of a house, It can be an object in itself or a collection of objects like chairs, car, computer, etc. In an Excel world, the objects could be one individual cell, a range of cells, a worksheet, also known as the tab, and a workbook. And just like a house, a workbook can be a collection of objects, cells, range of cells, and or maybe even a pivot table. Objects are hierarchical in Excel macros, and on the top of the food chain is the Excel application itself. Although rarely you will write macros which will impact the Excel application on your computer in general. An example of a macro to manipulate the application is a code written to change the workbook calculation from automatic, which is a default setting, to manual calculations. Once this is done, the setting is changed for the Excel as an application on your computer, and it impacts all the worksheets in your computer. The next in hierarchy is Excel workbook, which is again not an object for typical macros used for the accounting, but comes handy when you are trying to pull data from other files or trying to save the output files with specific names. The next is worksheets, also known as tabs, used in most of the macros. The last one is the range, which could be one single cell or a group of cells. To manipulate an object, we need to specify to the computer which object is to be manipulated or read. You can also visualize this as an address of the object in the workbook. Usually the address assigned to a range is the name of the tab and the coordinates of the range. The syntax for pointing out one cell is type worksheet and then followed by open bracket. Next, enter the name of the tab within quotes and close the bracket, followed by a dot. Type range after the dot. Open a bracket and enter the coordinates within the quotes and close the bracket. An example of VB script given below. The script will point to the cell B5 as shown in the picture on the screen. The coordinates of the cell are also given top left hand box of Excel. For the group of cells, it is done a similar way except for a colon in the range. The cell coordinates before the colon defines the start of the range, and the coordinates after the colon defines the end of the range. While defining the range B5 to G5, the computer will point out to the yellow region as shown in the picture on the screen. The range could be in one single row as shown in the previous picture, like from B5 to G5, or maybe in a single column like from cell B2 to cell B10, or the range could be a square or a rectangle, where we start from the top left corner of the cell like B2 as shown on the screen and end at the bottom right corner of the rectangle or selection as the cell G5 as shown on the screen. Now that we know how to point out a cell or a range of cells in Visual Basics, let us look at the various properties of cells. As a matter of fact, cells addresses is one of the properties where we have discussed in detail. Some of the other important properties are the value of cell. You can assign a value to a cell in Visual Basic by typing the address of cell followed by dot value and the is equal to sign. Specify the value you want to assign after the is equal to sign. If the value to be assigned is a number, it can be written as given on the screen, but if it is a text or a word, it should be written within quotes. Moving to the other properties, one of the useful property is the cell color, which comes handy for many accounting reports. The colors in the Excel are defined by numbers, and you get a link to the color index in the comment section of this video. Like for example, number 3 is the code for red color, 6 for yellow, 4 for green, and so on. You can fill in the desired color by writing the below code in Visual Basic. Address of the cell followed by a dot, followed by a word interior, and then followed by another dot and the word color index. Then type the is equal to sign and provide the color number. As you can see on the screen, color number 3 is given, which will make the cell's color to be red. Font size and style is yet another property of the cell, which comes handy for accounting reports. You can make the value of a cell appear in bold font through Visual Basic. Type the address of the cell followed by a dot and word font, another dot and the word bold, followed by a is equal to sign and the word true. As you can imagine, to switch from bold to normal, you have to type the exact same command except for false instead of true after is equal to sign. Similarly, you can change the font size by typing the address of the cell followed by a dot, word font, and another dot followed by word size, then the is equal to sign. Type the desired font number after the is equal to sign. An example is given on the screen. Now that we know the properties of a cell, let us write a simple macro which has 2 steps. Step 1 is to type the address of the cell. Step 2 is to write the command as we discussed earlier to change the cell's properties. Before we move on to the Excel spreadsheet to see the displayed macro in action, let us learn how to pull up the Developer tab in your Excel ribbon. For Excel 2010 and later versions, click on File and select the Options menu as shown in the picture. In the pop-up window that will appear, select Customize Ribbon. Then tick the Developer box as shown on the screen. And finally, click OK down at the bottom. Developer ribbon will show up in your Excel menu after View. Now let us move to Excel 2007 and see how you can pull up developer ribbon for Excel 2007. Click on the Windows icon on the upper left hand corner, then click on Excel options. You will see a pop-up window where on the left hand side bar you will notice that the option Popular is activated by default. If not, select Popular and then tick the box for Show Developer tab in ribbon. Now click on the Developer tab. On the left corner of the tab you will see a macro icon. Click on that. A pop-up window will appear. Write down the name of the macro. Say small_macro. Please note that there should be no space in the name you assign to your macro. Now click on Create and Visual Basic window will appear. Now click on Create and the Visual Basic window will appear. Please note on the left side window pane under Excel Objects you will see names of the worksheets in your workbook. Now, as you can see on the screen, your small macro begins from the word sub and ends at end sub. Any code written between sub small macro and the last phrase end sub will constitute the macro which we have named small_macro. Now we have typed the VB script and within the confines of small_macro. Close the Visual Basic window to return to the Excel spreadsheet. Click on the macros icon in the Developer tab once again. Make sure that the small_macro is selected and this time click on Run. You will see that the macro will type the value hello in cell 5 and will also change the fill-in color to yellow. Thanks folks for watching this video. In the video number 2 of this course, we will discuss about the triggers of macro, how to record a macro in Excel. We will also learn about the logical functions in a macro which are very helpful in creating macros for data analysis, and as always we will end the macro by writing a slightly complex macro using the learning from video 1 and video 2. Thanks folks once again. Send in your questions, queries and comments at contact@theknowledgestream.com.